Welcome to another episode of The Real Deal with Empire, the podcast where real estate meets reality. And I'm your host, as always, Ali Fawaz. And today's guest is somebody who lives, breathes community in a way that's real, it's relentless, and it's deeply rooted. He's the Chief Diversity Officer for the City of Westland. He's a prolific author with 18 books, I believe. He's a mentor, a connector. He's a firm believer in something we can all get behind, which is we exist for our neighbors. It's a concept that we're going to dive into today. Let's please welcome Paschal Eze to the podcast. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did, Ali. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Thank you for making time for us today.
My pleasure.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to dive in. So you've said that we actually exist for our neighbors. And this is a conversation we had the other day, which it really resonated with me. It's a powerful statement. You know, what sparked that belief for you? And was there a specific moment in time that cemented that for you?
In the course of my life, I've had the opportunity and privilege to work with a lot of people in different parts of the world. I've also lived in different cities and had some wonderful neighbors who, for all intents and purposes, are, in my view, wonderful people. I've also tried, because it's one thing to be a recipient of kindness. It's another thing to be a dispenser of kindness. So I look at it as a two-way traffic. Having met some wonderful people, having experienced the kindness of some wonderful people, and having considered myself to have shown kindness to a lot of people, I have come to that conclusion that we do indeed exist for people around us. Sometimes people just confine it to people who might be needy, might be facing more difficult challenges. But I believe that at different times, people do need our encouragement, do need our support, do need our solidarity. So somebody might be living next to you and they are financially stable, they are buoyant, they are retired, for instance, they have all things figured out, but they may be lonely. And so checking up on them, just saying, hey, how are you today? Can we have a cup of coffee together? Might just be what the doctor prescribed. you know. So it's not always, when I say we live for our neighbors, it's not always a situation where the neighbor is in need of financial help, is in need of a heavy lift. It might just be helping that neighbor settle down in a new community. It might just be lifting them up. Sometimes we are in doldrums, we feel discouraged. It might just be just throwing a word or two of advice, saying, hey, it's going to be all right. You don't have to say much. So I can't imagine myself living in solitude. I can't imagine myself living in a place all by myself. I find meaning in my interaction with people. I find meaning in my ability to work with people on projects together, projects that solve problems. I find meaning in being able to encourage people, in being able to support them in what they are doing, what their vision is. So, and that's where I draw a distinction between a city and a community. Because a city, you can look at it from real estate, from buildings, from the lens of buildings they have, the infrastructure, all that. But community, from my perspective, is about the people and how they relate to one another, how they support one another, how they help one another get a sense of belonging. So I lean more toward the human aspect of cities and towns than the infrastructure. Of course, is important. It's important that we have those things. But if I just define a place just by the things that I could touch, the things that could disappear if you have an adverse weather condition, then that's not a community. So.
Yeah. And speaking of community, I think so. Westland isn't just a city to you, right? It's a community.
It is.
What's the biggest difference between just living in a city and truly belonging to one?
Let me preface my answer. To answer that question, I need to go back to what drew me to that city. The then mayor was a friend of mine, and we drove to Ann Arbor one Saturday morning to meet up with a mutual friend and have coffee together. And as we were driving back, I was living in the city. He was sharing with me his vision for the city, how minorities, how persons with disabilities, how women, how young people, how seniors were part and parcel of that vision. And I thought that was so fascinating. I kind of looked at it from, hey, this is what a city should be. This is in your planning. You should bring all segments of the community into focus. You should find ways to give them the support that they need. So I just I thought about it, and I contacted him some days or probably weeks later on and said, hey, I'd like to move into your city. I'd like to buy a home here. And he said, what's your budget? He was excited that I wanted to move into the city. It was because I didn't know much about the city. Yeah. I didn't. I just knew, okay, he's the mayor of the city. He's a friend of mine, and I would every now and then kind of get some information about what was going on. But that ride from Ann Arbor offered me a memorable opportunity to see through his eyes the possibilities that were, the things that the city could do, was doing, and could do, to make sure that everyone felt that they belonged. And so that's how I see, and it's not just a matter of what elected officials were doing. Sometimes we kind of think it should be circumscribed to what happens at that level of society. I think it should be such that everyone finds a place, a room for engagement, a room for difference making. It could be somebody who's passionate about volunteering, about gardening, about keeping the neighborhood safe. It could be, we all have something to contribute. It could be somebody. I have a friend who goes to assisted living. He goes there and shares some things with them. Many years ago, I had a friend who would go and play. He was in his 80s, but part of his contribution to his community was going to nursing homes and just ministering in songs, just playing, using the keyboard and playing and all that. So I just, community to me is a place for all of us, and not a place of weakness for any of us, but a place of strength that could be seen through the lens of what we do, how we do it, and who we do it with. I find delight in helping that aspect of life, helping people find their place in living with other people, helping people find their significance in that kind of dispensation. So for me, a city that cares about who I am, what I aspire to become, what challenges that I might be facing at the moment, what facilities that I might need to live a decent life within its city limits. That for me is very now. I'm not speaking. I'm not a city planner.
Yeah.
I'm not a. I'm not speaking on behalf of my city. But for Westland, I'm speaking as a resident.
Yeah. So when you say somebody, from your seat as the chief diversity officer,
yes,
are these things that you would characterize as the things that a truly welcoming city consists of?
Yes, a truly welcoming city is not one that wants to change you from who you are. Mm-hmm. A truly welcoming city is one that says, come in your authenticity, come with your strength, come with your understanding of who you are, what you are, come with the skills and knowledge that you have, come with your expectations, come with your challenges, and we will work together to find the right place for what you are bringing to the table.
I like that. Just to interrupt you for a moment, because it's something that I think back to. There's a case to be made where some people will say America is the melting pot. Then others will say, well, really, if you think about it, are we a melting pot or should we strive to be more like a salad bowl? In a melting pot, everything blends.
Yes.
In a salad bowl, each thing still has the integrity of what it is, but they all work well together. It sounds like that's kind of the position where you kind of see things.
We have different names. We have, you may have twins, identical twins that do have different preferences in sports. This one might want to play basketball, and this one might want to play hockey, or pickleball. But they're identical twins, born of the same parents and all that. Mm-hmm. So our individuality is something that you cannot just erase. If somebody tells me to change who I am to fit in, I would say that would not make me comfortable. I would not be comfortable in an environment where I have to wear a mask to be accepted. Now, are there situations where I have to adapt to every environment? For instance, you're on an organization, you have corporate culture. There are things that I have to do that are part of your corporate culture. I have to do those things. But if I like to take my coffee black, and somebody says, "Oh no, you gotta put milk in it and put sugar in it," I mean, that's so you're just changing it from, my preference is black coffee. That's if somebody's talking, defining me, trying to capture my essence, they're gonna, he's the guy who drinks coffee black. That's it. So I may not enjoy it with sugar in it. So I believe life would be so boring, and initiatives will be stunted. Yeah. I believe when you allow people to retain their authenticity and project same, it fosters initiatives. It makes society more exciting. It draws people. If you go to some festivals, like Asian festivals, and you see this cornucopia of colors, like Taiwanese, Chinese, red color, orange, and all. I mean, it just captivates you. It's beautiful. If you were just black or blue. Now, I'm not criticizing those colors. I mean, I wear black and blue and all that, but when you bring these different colors, it just has a way of appealing to the eyes, appealing to the consciousness. It has a way of just lifting up people's spirits. And that's what happens, from my perspective, when a society allows people to just be who they are. It doesn't mean, look, society has to have laws. Right. So I'm not saying allow this person who breaks the law to be who they are. If they choose to break the law, that's different. But aside from the prescriptions of the law, the provisions of the law that are meant to foster stability, growth, well-being of individuals. There are aspects of individuals that should not be tampered with. I just I have friends who wouldn't celebrate their birthday. They just want to have it low key. Or even if you tell them, "Hey, happy birthday," they're not. But they may celebrate. They may celebrate something else.
Yeah.
They're not weird. It's just who they are, and they have a right to decide not to make a fuss about the day they were born. They have a right to decide to celebrate one event and not the other. So it's just those little things, those some eccentric aspects of our lives that I tend to pay special attention to, because people place value. If somebody wants to put, like you have a pot of flowers and all that, and that's what they want, you don't tell them, "Oh no, it should be gray." They prefer to have it green. They prefer to have it in front of their, on their porch and not on their deck. That's up to them. It's not violating any ordinance.
Right.
So
it's just allowing their expressions to come out
exactly
the way that they like them to.
Exactly.
So I say, when you think about cities, what do you think cities often get wrong when they're trying to attract new residents or new businesses to their city?
Well, I wouldn't use a blanket. Different cities have different ways of doing things.
Sure.
And that, of course, has something to do with their experiences and those who are decision makers and all that. But sometimes the planning is such that people believe that if I come to a city, I have to live in this neighborhood. I shouldn't live in that neighborhood. Sometimes it is the idea that there should be uniformity in some things. Sometimes the leaders may believe, okay, now we need to draw businesses from, maybe middle-level businesses, middle-scale businesses, and not low, not small businesses. It's sometimes a function of available funding, experiences they've had, demands made by residents, the calculations that leaders are making when they look at their short, medium, and long-term planning. So I may not have a blanket and just describe the different cities. They are different. I've been privileged to walk, outside of city governance, looking from without to see how different cities were doing their thing. I worked in Detroit when it was recovering from the Great Recession, and there was this criticism about the focus being on, for instance, big investors coming in, and some people said, what about the micro entrepreneurs? What about the people talk about moving, some older residents were being moved. The prices were going up and they were forced to leave certain areas of town and all that. Those are, sometimes I don't think the leaders that may not be the outcome that they want. But if you have an overarching goal of spurring growth, if you were to lead a city, for instance, that had flight of capital, flight of residents, as some cities have had, and you don't have many businesses, you don't have employment opportunities, and as a result, there's crime, increase in crime. You got to come to the drawing table and ask yourself, what is the main thing that I can do to change the situation? Is it to offer loans and grants to everyone? Is it to bring big businesses that will big businesses that will generate employment, pay taxes, and all. Do I need to give them tax incentives? Those are. It's a complex web of this decision-making inputs. There are so many things that are in part of the process of trying to pull a city from difficult economic challenges to prosperity. So different cities at certain times might get some things wrong. And what I like to do is to, for instance, talk with some people who are privileged to see the big picture and try to figure out where the lens through which they were looking at that feature and their understanding of history to see what's going on. Sometimes people don't. I've been around people who criticized some places, some decisions that were made, and 10 years down the line, I saw the fruits, the benefits of those decisions. So you know how it is. You might implement if you want to invest, for instance, in the stock market. You want to make some investments today. If you try to reap on that investment tomorrow, next month, next two, it may not be.
You're not going to see those results.
So it might be a 10-year game plan. It might be a 5-year game plan. That's why we do immediate, short-term, medium-term, and long-term kind of planning.
Right.
So. To every different strokes for different folks. To every city, their own challenges might be unique.
Right.
Might require certain levels of intervention, certain peculiarities in terms of planning. But what I would not support is a type of planning that alienates the people, a type of planning that makes people feel displaced, a type of growth plan that makes people feel that they don't belong anymore. They gotta pack their bag and baggage and leave. So can you walk and chew gum at the same time in this kind of situation? Yes, so you want growth. But growth without people, it's just, I might see the buildings, like I said, buildings are good, infrastructure, but people, from my perspective, they are the engine room of growth. They are the people that make any infrastructural development worth the while. So if you take a look at cities across the country, I've also looked at cities around the world. They have different. I've seen cities that are battling with congestion. They have more people than their infrastructure can handle. I've also seen cities that are looking for people to come in and dwell in them. They have underutilization of the resources they already have. So different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, and it sounds like you come at it from an approach where let's boil it down to the basics.
Yes.
The basics, it always comes back to the people themselves, right?
Yes.
If we're doing this and we're focusing on the commercial aspect, it still involves people.
Yes.
What type of people? Who are these people? What do these people care about?
Exactly.
So I like that. It's sometimes in a way it's really simple. It's about the people, and then you figure out what do the people want and kind of go from there.
Exactly.
You've written 18 books and you've mentored many. If you could write a manual that's titled "How to Move to a City and Thrive," what would chapter 1 look like?
Be yourself.
Ooh, nice.
There's always this pressure to blend in. There's always this, just be like everyone else.
Yeah.
Now, you may have an immediate reward for blending in, but I don't think it has staying power. I think your superpower is in knowing what makes you unique, knowing how to strengthen and promote your uniqueness, and knowing how to compete in the marketplace of ideas on the basis of that uniqueness of yours. So if I were to go to a city and I want to thrive, my first task is to on the study how people are thriving in that city. I also want to know if there are people that look like me, that face similar challenges that I do face, that are thriving in that city. If they are not, then I ask, why not? Who do I align myself with? Because you cannot, you can't be a lone ranger and expect to thrive.
Yeah.
So my first chapter would dwell on how you can harness your uniqueness and use it to position yourself to attract the right kind of partnership, the right kind of people that will help you settle in and begin to create value in a way that makes you stand out and get the kind of upward mobility that you want. I would really start from there because I really haven't met anyone. I've met a lot of people. I've not really met anyone who doesn't know who they are, anyone who doesn't know where they're coming from, and who doesn't know where they're going. I've not met anyone like that who became a super success. Mm-hmm. I have not met anyone.
Yeah, they kind of have a general idea of
here's who I am,
here's what I'm about.
Yes, anything goes. I can just you have not. And I'm somebody who's had the many years ago when I was living in Australia, I interviewed this guy who's the first person to own a bullion bank. I've kind of met a lot of. I used to have in the mid '90s or thereabout a radio program called Encounter with Paschal. I used to have newspaper columns. I've had the opportunity in over 20 years to talk with different kinds of people. Yeah. People who are super successful, people who are wealthy, people who are who've made tremendous achievements. And one thing I find consistent with them is that they know who they are. Yeah. And they know their place in the scheme of things. They know how to navigate that space. So anybody who is dwelling in confusion, anybody who's just trying to fit in, who's just trying to be whatever, be whatever anybody wants them to. I call it obeying the wind. If the wind blows left, they go left. If it goes to the right, they go right. I don't see them really making...
because if you can't even define who you are yourself and look inward first and really be sure of that, then how can you put that energy in anything else?
Exactly.
You have to start with yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's be real. Diversity is not just a checkbox. We know that. It's a blueprint. How should city leaders and real estate developers think about diversity beyond just the buzzwords that come with it?
I'll tell you a story. When I was trying to buy a home, I, of course, got pre-approved. And I went to a city that I was not looking at the city. I was not drawn to I just saw a property that I liked. It checked the boxes in terms of what I wanted for my home, for me and my family. So I went there. As soon as I walked through the front door, the porch, I guess that's the real estate agent that was hosting the open house. People were coming in, and he never accosted them. He came right to me and he said, "How may I help you?" And I smiled. It was a sarcastic smile. I was just wondering, why you focused on me? All these people came in. You never approached them. So he asked me, how may I help you? I said, well, I'm here to look at the house like everyone else. He said, are you pre-approved? I said, yes, I am. How much? He started asking me questions that suggested he thought I had no place, I had no reason being there. So I pulled my pre-approval and gave him. and I was a pre-approved higher than the asking price of the home.
Yeah.
And while others were, moving around, this guy was interrogating me at the entrance to the home, and then he landed a heavy punch. He said, "Have you thought about?" He mentioned one city. "Have you thought about that place? I think you should go look there." He told me.
Wow.
So that left a sour taste in my mouth. I said, "Well, let me do what I came here for. Let me go see the house." And it had a wonderful. The backyard was really beautiful. Had some things that I really wanted, and so I left. Now that was before I. It's not the city I live in right now. It's not the city I walk in right now. Now, I didn't buy the house, of course. I was not encouraged to. I just left after looking at the house. I didn't feel welcome. But months went by, years went by. I started relating with people in that city, the leaders of that city, the business owners of that city, and I saw wonderful people. So I was forced to juxtapose that experience
Right. Against the people that you were starting to meet.
That I started to meet in that city.
Mm-hmm.
And what I arrived at was the need not to jump into conclusions about places and people. So one person may have robbed me of the opportunity to encounter all these wonderful people that belong to the city. I'm not saying the city is. I'm not saying everybody there is all an angel. That's not what I'm saying. But my experience is that I met the real estate agent who painted a bad picture for me. I was discouraged as a result of that encounter. But down the road, I started meeting people who were, from my estimation, wonderful people. So diversity is not just, it's not a fancy word as some people might look at it as. It's just it's not. Diversity is experiential. Diversity is really woven into our existence. I believe the Creator Himself established, institutionalized diversity because we're different. We have different cultures, different ways of looking at things. Different. In fact, one of the things I dwell on when I make my presentation at conferences is that when people attack diversity programs, they are actually underscoring the idea of diversity because there's what we call diversity of thought.
Yeah.
I don't have to agree with you. You don't have to agree with me. We don't have to see things exactly the same way. But so that divergence, that's what it should be.
Yeah.
And now we can, in the course of our exchange of ideas, begin to gain understanding, some clarity, and I might say, "Oh wow!" For instance, I may say, "Oh, that restaurant is bad," and because somebody told me that restaurant is bad. Now you say, "Hey, Paschal, are you free on Friday? Let's go. I have this nice place I want us to check out," and it's the same restaurant that somebody told me is bad. Now I didn't want to, make you feel bad. I said, "Okay, let's go," and we go there. And they mesmerize me with their customer service, with the cuisine, the ambience looks very nice.
Yeah.
That's just changed the whole thing.
Yep.
So, but I need to allow for that difference, of opinion. So from my perspective, that's why I hang out with everyone. I have friends who have different religion, different, they're different, from me in different ways. They're different than me in different ways, but they're still my friends. I value them, and I want them to value me as well. I don't want to make everyone conform to my own expectations in life, my own value judgment, my own lens. That's so. In essence, diversity is all of us. All of us, in our differences. Right. How do you reflect all of us in everything that you do? Now you come to a city, we have all of us. You have one race, one gender, one. You may have more seniors than the young people. You may have more males than females. The totality of people in the community, in the city, that's diversity.
That's the diversity.
So sometimes people think, oh no, it's that now when you go into equity and inclusion, that's where these other ones come in. Right. Inclusion.
To me, the equity and inclusion are almost like these are tools to help you create the diversity, I suppose, potentially, right? But it's not actually the diversity. It's here are some tools that will help you to generate diversity, because at the end of the day, the diversity is actually the people. Yes. It always comes back down to the people.
Yes, they're there. The people are there. Yeah. We're here in the studio. You are who you are. I'm who I am. She's who she is. There's diversity right here. Right. There's diversity of experiences. Your experiences are different from mine. My lived experiences are different from yours. So you cannot concoct uniformity. You can't even legislate uniformity. People are different, and now when we say equity, one way that equity happens is now we all belong to one community, one city, and I may be having problems. Maybe I have just my GED, and it's affecting my ability to get meaningful employment. And the community says, this guy, let's offer him the opportunity to learn a trade, maybe plumbing. Let's he can learn plumbing, and with plumbing he can be gainfully employed, and he can pay taxes and all that. There's a barrier. There's something inhibiting me from giving my best to our union, our community, and so the people saying let's help him out, not to create dependence, is to remove a problem, a barrier. So you remove that barrier. The intent here is to enable him or her to create, to contribute, to transform. Now, when we say inclusion, it might be that you're doing your podcast, but you've never invited someone in a wheelchair before. You've never. You've had wonderful people, and you say, you know what? Let's include. Let's give a place, a real place to someone in wheelchair, someone living with disability. That's inclusion. Now, I draw a distinction between a seat at the table, because that's, from my perspective, is nominal inclusion. Let's just bring that person at the table. If the person is sitting at the table but is not contributing in ideas, that's not meaningful inclusion. That's nominal. That's not, So I go that the whole idea is to make sure that society works for everyone. Mm-hmm. So it's not to give anyone advantage, undue advantage. It's to make sure that no one is left behind. Yeah. No one feels incumbent. No one feels that they're displaced. No one feels like, hey, the opportunity has, eluding me. And that's what I signed for. And that's what I've done for many years. Maybe not under the acronym of DEI. Right. If you provide opportunity to people, if you help them figure things out, help them to find their place in society, if you help them to feel that they are of significant worth, if you help them to not be who they could be, that's what you're doing. And so sometimes when I talk with people who are vehemently opposed to DEI, I have a wonderful. You asked me something about a question about we live for our neighbors.
Yeah.
Years ago, I used to work in Detroit, and one Friday I came back. I was so tired, and my neighbor saw me going into my house. I was tired, and so I have early morning routines. I wake up very early, and so do my routine, and then I just switch on the television in my man cave, and about 8 a.m. I was hearing this noise on my front lawn. My neighbor, Joel, and his wife and his kids were walking on my lawn. Apparently, they had seen me the night before. My wife just gave back to our son, and so I was shortly, gotta take care of my wife and our new baby, and then go to work and come back. So I saw him. I kind of quickly dressed up, came out, and he said, "Oh, no, Pascal, he was telling me, go back. I said, no, you can't be walking on my lawn and I'll be there drinking coffee. I gotta come out and join you." And we had this wonderful conversation. I was just probably about a year or two in the neighborhood. He doesn't look like me. Joel is Caucasian. Joel and his family are wonderful, wonderful people. And what he did that day was to tell me, "You're welcome. I know your challenges, and I do whatever I can to support you." That's community from my perspective. And I have, in the course of my travels, encountered some wonderful people. And not only I've been to many states here in the United States, I've been to many parts of the world. And if there's one thing that I am happy about, is the opportunity I've had to encounter people who are plain wonderful. They are just human beings, good human beings. Now, I'm not oblivious of the existence of people who are mean-spirited, who are heartless, who are wicked. I'm not dismissing their existence. But I choose to focus on people that I've met, that I've worked with, that I've lived with, that are just wonderful, wonderful people. And I derive encouragement from those people, from the work they do. I have people I've mentored that are doing great things, and I each day that I get to see what they're doing, I just feel happy with that.
Yeah.
And that's just life. But I can choose to say, "Oh no, let me focus on all the bad things. This person is bad, that person is weak, that person, it makes you sick. If you just focus on the bad things. I'm not saying that there's room for us to point out things that are going wrong. But that's not what I dwell. I don't dwell on pointing out what is going wrong.
Yeah.
I do point out what is going wrong, but I do choose to focus on what is going well, what people are doing to make a difference in their own communities, in their own families, around the world. That's what I think. I choose to focus, place the floodlight on positive humanity, not negative humanity. These guys are doing great things. Hey, let's encourage them. Let's do more. Let's duplicate. Let's just proliferate this kind of activity.
Right.
So that if you have many people doing good things in your own community, supporting those who are less privileged, supporting those who are helping those who are oppressed get free from their bondage, I think the society will be a lot better, irrespective of where we are talking about, what we're talking about here around the world.
Yeah.
So that's my passion, really.
I think so. Obviously, we're coming close to time, but I want to ask you this last question because I think it's important. I think it's related to what you just finished wrapping up in that last piece. But what's one small thing that each of us can do this week to be better neighbors, no matter where we live?
Again, I'm a storyteller, so pardon me if I just tell the story. I was at an event a few days ago, and I was I forgot my glasses. I have my glasses, I put it here. I forgot my glasses. So Someone sitting to my left, I know Diana Stachel, wonderful woman. She observed that I wasn't reading a document because I wasn't with my glasses. I was with my no, let me put it. I was with my glasses, but it wasn't really helping me out. So she gave me the cloth that you use to clean the glasses. Oh, yeah. I didn't know I didn't even realize she was observing me. So I pulled it out, put it on. It wasn't working. I put it back on. So I didn't read. Yeah. She observed me. She offered me, hey, Pascal, have this. You can't place it was almost effortless. Yeah. You can't place a price tag on that. Last year, we wanted to do, I think it was National Immigrant Day. And we wanted to serve immigrants. We focused on refugees. And sometimes people fail to realize that refugees are here legally. So we reached out to my assistant and I, Nicole, wonderful lady, reached out to the Salvation Army of Westland, Andy, great guy. He offered to give us boxes of food to deliver to the refugees, and it was wonderful. So we worked with another lady who works with refugees, helping them to settle in communities across the state. So as time was approaching, we wanted to get specifics from the target recipients, what they needed. So we went back to the lady who was helping us out. And it so happened that the people wanted clothes, not just food. So we had planned for just food from Salvation Army. So, but they needed clothes and they had kids and all that. So just like that, my assistant contacted Federal Wayne Westland Credit Union, and they asked for the measurements, the sizes of all the kids involved. Okay. And they went and bought new clothes for the refugees. Our friend Adelina at Kids Purpose Learning Center on Central City Parkway did the same thing. But now we got like 15 volunteers. We all gathered at the parking lot of Salvation Army. Yep. They would take the items, put them in their trunk, and drive to the homes of these refugees and deliver these items to them. I cannot tell you, I cannot emphasize enough what that meant to me. And I believe what it meant to the recipients. Mm-hmm. Because we didn't ask them to come and line up to get the items. We got people who volunteered to take delivery of, they took those items, put them in their trunk, and drove to the homes of these people they've never met. They were not friends or neighbor, colleagues. This was perfect strangers, delivering those items to them. Yeah. That's good neighborliness. Yeah. That's humanity at work. Mm-hmm. That's community. That's what each of us can do. They didn't spend, okay, of course, they must spend money for gas.
But it's the acts that took place that I think take it to that next level. It's like, sure, anybody can, I'm going to throw some money at a problem. Yes. Money doesn't always fix the problem. That's not always what people are looking for. Yes. It's, where's the humanity in that? That's it. And that's what resonates, I think. That definitely resonates. It does. Pascal, this has been a really great conversation. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate the in-depth of this conversation as well. And hopefully this resonates with our audience as well. That's the real deal, folks. Pascal, everybody, a true leader, a true community builder, and someone who reminds us that cities aren't necessarily made of buildings, they're made of people. And if today's episode moved you, or it challenged you, or it gave you a new perspective that maybe you didn't think about before, I want you guys to hit the subscribe button because we need you guys to subscribe. share as well. And you can obviously find us on Apple Podcast, on YouTube, and on Spotify. Until next time, I'm Ali Fawaz, and this is The Real Deal with Empire. Again, I do want to give a special thank you to our guest, Paschal. Hopefully we can get him back out here again. But until next time, keep it real, and we keep it moving. Peace out.